Okay, and welcome everyone to the Aussie Expat 2 channel, or my original channel, really. Got a little bit of time here. I wanted to talk about a few things, a few various things, but in trying to figure out what I wanted to do, I did a little search through some of my old documents looking for like projects and stuff like that. And one of the things I found was a document that I started back in 2018, and I think the last update looks to be like at the end of 2019. So about 5 years have gone from some thoughts, and some of those thoughts extend to my channel and what I do with my time. And I thought it'd be interesting to reflect on it because I was pretty deliberate about some of the things I put in there, which is really cool. In the meantime, if you're joining, feel free to ask me about anything. I'm an open book. I'm still sort of searching what exactly this part of the channel, Sans watches, we can talk about watches too, but Sans watches should be. We're certainly in an interesting time, finance wise, and I certainly am really big into finance. I've done streams on Bitcoin. Look, I do a lot of finance professionally. I used to be in the finance space, as an engineer working with stock exchanges and brokers on their trade monitoring software. Stuff that I'm sure is still in there today, some monsters that I created back in the day. And, some of it was regulatory, and some of it was more risk sort of stuff. And it was, it's an interesting time in my life. Something that I've always gravitated towards. I'm not exactly sure why. I try to trace back like where was the origin of some of my ideas and so forth. So we've got the finance stuff. We've got YouTube. I've always been a big fan of video editing, technology behind it, cameras. With cameras, I'm more focused on composition. Today using one of the newest webcams, an OBSBot, which is really cool. It's one of these like AI cameras, and it has a lot of functionality, which is really cool. I can even change the composition just a little bit here. I can track just a little, so I give myself a little bit more headspace here. Okay, I think it's good. It's nice. I don't like there being like a ton of room up the top, just because it makes you look like a short person regardless of how tall you are. Like if I'm at the bottom of the frame, it's not going to be so great. Quick wristwatch check. We have the Explorer 36. Oh yeah, you can't get away from me, camera. You can't get away from me. Explorer 36, 124,270, purchased back in 2021. 4 years old, the last year of warranty. So I'm going to be trying my best. Come on. I'm going to be trying my best to wear this as much as I can this year, including the Submariner, as well as what another 5-year watch, Batman. That one needs to be worn a lot. So that video games. I've been playing a bit more in terms of video games. Satisfactory, Factorio, pretty dangerous game to get involved in. Just the amount of time it could potentially take. Yeah, pretty phenomenal set of games. Let me just double check that this is broadcasting to YouTube correctly. You never know, and if my audio isn't quite right, you let me know. Let's see, on my channel here. Let's see, going live, and we're live. We're live. Good. Okay, it's working. It's working, I think. Let's get this shared out. So the big one, as I said, was a document. So let's see if I can pull that up. Don't want that there. And yeah, so I've been trying to do writing and stuff like that. I think the sort of, former Amazon worker, we do a lot of writing. But one of the things I saw personally, and I think it was like Jordan Peterson has this like self-writing package you pay money for and ask you a lot of questions. That was pretty interesting. So I realized that writing is a very powerful tool in our personal lives, and writing things down allows us to One, A, put it down so you don't have to just keep running through it in your head. Allow yourself to start thinking about moving on and thinking about other things. But I did want to go into this document. Let me see. Can I share this? Well, let me see here. Let's get this done. We're in StreamYard here. I'm going to share screen. We're going to do personal projects. There we go. How does this look? Not quite right. Not quite right. There we go. Does that look good? Not yet. We kind of need it to be bigger, don't we? Let's get rid of this panel. So I was looking at a few things in this document. I started it back in 2018, and these are sort of like the areas of interest for me at the time. Number one, Bitcoin, find a way to securely store my Bitcoin. I think that's always true. You always need to rethink about your solutions there. That's always true. In USPSA with guns, I got the desire here to get A class in PCC, B class in carry optics. I believe I did that at that time. That was an achievable goal. I did a lot of practice. Noteworthy at this time, my wife was pregnant in the second half of this year. So yeah, it's, not the only thing. So at the time, the forefront of my thinking was really around 2A. I was really into guns, and I still am like really into 2A. And it's really sad to see where Washington State has gone in the last 2, 3, 4 years since I've left. Like it's turned into the worst example possible of a state with bad gun laws. And it used to be basically free. It used to be basically free, except for even if you're willing to go the NFA route, you couldn't get machine guns at the time. So I wanted to make videos targeting newbie search terms. So in terms of 2A advocacy, it doesn't really help to be talking to, only people that already have guns, So for the most part, I was thinking about what are the ways that I can make videos about guns, but they're sort of trying to reach out to people who don't have them yet or are on the fence or so forth. So self-defense, the crossover movie and video games, preppers that don't own guns, which still bewilders me, but they're out there. EDC is an obvious one. And in fact, between the Europeans and the Americans on Reddit for EDC, it's kind of interesting. There's a little bit of a sort of a rift. They don't like the Americans showing that they have guns. They think that they're sort of being bravado or blah, blah, blah. And there's a little bit of that. It's a gun. It's a cool thing. But they're kind of pretending that it isn't cool, which is not cool. Camping and outdoors, man, that's something I did start doing then. But, once the kids came along, we sort of couldn't do it. And yeah, if I needed to target people who already have guns, it's sort of like just doing reviews, which I'm not a big fan of reviews on guns. I mean, I watch them, but the problem is like 2A isn't about having the best guns. It's really the idea and philosophies behind it. And honestly, guns are tools. So, you just find the best tool for the job. And guns are so good these days that even, third, fourth, or fifth best option is fantastic. So for example, a Glock. There probably isn't a striker-fired gun on the market that isn't better than a Glock. If you think about Walther PDP, much better trigger, great ergonomics. You think about the SIG, whether it's 365 or 320 systems, they have different grip modules and steel magazines, so it's superior. And the trigger, it's about the same in terms of its squishiness. But yeah, just in general, they're pretty good. Smith has always done very, very well with their ergonomics. Fantastic trigger. Not as good as, say, the Walther. But yeah, basically, Glock happens to be maybe the fourth or fifth best gun. But if someone just said, "Oh, I'll get a Glock," they didn't know anything about it. It's still a great gun. Still a great gun. Really, no issue. There's only a few guns that I would say are below a Glock. Maybe the H&K VP9. I'd say that's below a Glock. But it's just not that reliable. There's people who swear by HK reliability, but when it comes to the VP9, it's not the same. I think anything from Springfield, I sort of, notionally they might be better. They tend to have probably slightly better triggers. They got metal magazines. So, okay, maybe technically, the XD series is still, I don't know, do they still make that? The XD series? I hope not. It's such a distraction. Honestly, anything from Springfield is such a distraction. And part of that is that they're not very two-way. It's as really simple as that. Like, they were caught with their pants down, giving money to politicians that were actually two-way, anti-two-way, is what it is. Under tech, I wanted to find something that piqued my interest outside of the direct domain I was working in at the time. And there was this project that had the potential for me reaching out, but it was going to be like honestly, a decades long project. And, I think I got it to where I could with the resources available to me, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm not working for that company anymore. And had my first son coming up in 2019. You notice in here, I didn't have a watch list, as in things I want from watch, but I did end up going to the AD, asking for a Submariner for my firstborn, and they offered it to me, and I refused. I just wasn't really ready in 2018, I guess. Okay, and then I get to 2019 retrospective. I don't know if it's retrospective for 2019 itself, or if it was, yeah, I think 2 years, 20 retrospective for 2019. So 2 years go by. So it's possible that this was updated for 2019 year as well, because I mean, baby is listed. Yeah, maybe. So it did nothing with 2019, but I wasn't into, say, Bitcoin advocacy. It was more about what are the cold storage options and stuff like that. 2A had a big thought analysis here. Let's read it out. On 2A, I felt my efforts were best utilized making the channel better. So what I meant by that is there are other avenues to be influential in 2A, like whether it was like protesting, lobbying, stuff like that. But for me, best utilized making my channel better. I did see a certain advances, although the most successful videos by far were the ones that closely resembled reviews. I'm not that interested in reviews. They tend to be looked at people inside of the gun community long after the decision to make a purchase has already been made. So a lot of people just sort of looking at Glock reviews because they have Glocks. It's a thing. We all want to justify our consumption. I think YouTube's algorithm really never presents even generally interesting content to users, as in, originally my thinking is if I just posted a lot of sport videos of shooting and just having fun, that could be a way to contribute to 2A. And ultimately, I don't think it was true. The reality is that YouTube's very good at giving you what you want and doesn't really go outside of the wheelhouse, basically. And so while me putting up a lot of gun videos are mostly focused on sport, people might, if they ever see it, they'll be like, oh wow, that's interesting, what is that? It looks like a cool sport. People will never see it. I realize that after things like, oh, volleyball's a good sport, but how many times do I see volleyball videos pop up on my home feed or something like that? It just doesn't happen. Even if I say volleyball 5 times and hope the genie of magic stealthy search pops up, it just won't happen. So you can't just put stuff up into the ether and then hope it gets picked up. YouTube's just, it's even back 5 years ago, it would never it would never happen that you would just be randomly popping up. So I think the real fruit might be in trying to find the search terms that are being made about guns, but are not by gun people. So some ideas revolved around gun techniques in movies and video games. So this one explicit was really around John Wick, you know. And hey, actually, there's a cool channel. There's a few cool channels by some, you know, not Delta, Green Berets. I forgot what the channel name is, but they do this series on movies talking about the techniques and tactics that they see in the movie. And it's actually very, very popular. I certainly watch almost every single one, right? I really love that kind of content. So the real reality of like military stuff seems to be, I don't know, that's a real hobby of mine. I remember the first time I got like a glimpse of that was like Terminator 2 commentary of James Cameron. And he said, oh, these SWAT guys were like really good. And then he sees in the movie that one of the SWAT guys was pointing the MP5 straight into the back of this officer. He was like, well, not that guy. And that was my first sort of clue into like, oh, this is not how it should look. This is not how someone should do X or Y. And I remember doing exactly this kind of thing when I used to play airsoft back when I used to live in England. And, you know, we'd go around in teams and stuff like that, try to stack and clear rooms. And one of the things that I would do is I would never point the gun at my other players. Not that it was like literally unsafe, it is just airsoft, but just as sort of like good practice and sort of aesthetically it looks right, like not to be pointing the gun at your fellow players. Right. So yeah, I tend to like that. Self-defense techniques. I think this was coming out of like more as a reaction to self-defense techniques where people are showing like doing anything and everything apart from carrying a gun. You know, it just seemed like pointless and stupid. Preppers that don't yet own guns, yeah, weird. I know. EDC videos, and camping outdoors. Like these are all obvious areas that are adjacent to guns, but may not be explicitly about guns. So in here, with the demise of the NRA and the change in what gun control looks like now, it appears that the harmless for political practitioners enroachment has come to an end. This could come to a head very soon. And what I mean by this is that the set of laws that were coming in previously were mostly trying to say, this won't affect you, this won't affect you, this won't affect you. Things like the assault weapons training requirement in Washington State, where there's supposed to be like training and stuff you had to get before you got an assault weapon, and assault weapons were narrowly defined as, you know, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, ultimately you could spend 30 minutes and get the license and then get your firearm, you know, mostly harmless, but very pointless. And that quickly transitioned to very, very harmful, like waiting times and denials and limits on purchases, insurance requirements, safekeeping, you know, just really trying to make your life very hard if you wanted to continue owning a gun, including magazine capacity restrictions, which is particularly nasty set of restrictions because, you know, the bad people don't have an agreement with civil society to say that we're not going to come at someone with more than one person at a time. It's really that simple. This could come to a head very soon, and making sure the narrative is politicians inflicting strife upon society rather than marginalized groups inflicting harm onto themselves is a critical distinction. Some people don't want to own guns themselves, but they should fear and be horrified by a state that wants to remove those rights. Democrats can't keep gun control as a rallying cry for the voting booth. This may need some thinking outside of the box. Unfortunately, none of the above would use technology that I have that could advance the cause. Like, you know, if I create some dry fire software, which I did, I created some cool dry fire stuff, which I never shared. Like I really relish in going to like the 90% finished on a project and not that last 10%. I don't want to deal with people. But you know, dry fire helps a lot. Target those that have guns, they're a lost cause. Here I talk about being proficient at USPSA, like what my goals are. Tech projects, I decided that for the most part, I just should double my efforts in the stuff that I have at work. That a side project would not be useful to me, especially with a kid coming up. I should just find that enjoyment in tech from within the job itself. This being said, I did have a list of tech projects. So for VR, more experience including working. So I wanted to do more with the VR goggles, but actually using it as a working environment. Wow, this is back in 2019. That's pretty good. That's pretty good because that's kind of what Apple ended up trying to do. I genuinely think that it does offer the potential to be like a fantastic work environment. Doom renderer, yeah, I've always been super fascinated about exactly how games worked. You know, back in the Wolfenstein days when I was like probably 11 or 10 or something like that, I remember thinking like, did they have an image of every map in Wolfenstein from every position, 360 degrees, with every permutation of what you could be doing at all times? Is that how it worked? And was it actually? I didn't really comprehend that it was actually drawing on screen. That there was an algorithm to draw what you saw on screen, which, you know, it coming from the 2D days where literally everything on screen, yeah, it was composed, but it was literally pre-rendered prior to the game being in your face, the 3D lines and stuff like that. Yeah, that's how I thought it worked. But yeah, I wanted to see what a raycast engine would take. And there was a cool French channel called Shader Toy where they just did with like very limited number of lines of code, we're able to do both model and rendering at the same time and animation. Very, very cool. Always been fascinated in BitTorrent. I've always wanted to make a BitTorrent client. I never did any of this stuff, by the way. Well, not all of it. Maybe some. BitTorrent client, always been fascinated. It's probably one of the most advanced things you could do in networking, actually, BitTorrent. But Quick, or HTTP 2. At the time, there wasn't. Oh wait, actually Quick. So the Speedy and then Quick is HTTP 3. At the time, there wasn't any load balancers for this, and I would end up joining the team that was actually responsible for the first Quick load balancer for the industry. I don't want to be too specific. Yeah, alt tech. Always interested in doing a tower defense game. Ever like back in 2011, I was doing mobile apps, and I actually really wanted to do a game at that time, but I felt like this was just kind of outside of our wheelhouse, so better not start there. But I always wanted to do like a type of tower defense game. I think that format can really explore a lot of narratives, actually. Like there's not many people who've used it to show a narrative, but yeah, I think it's possible. Love a Syndicate clone. I loved Syndicate. And Syndicate Wars is not a substitute. I just love the original Syndicate. Such a cool game, such a cool idea. Want to do something with guns, real guns, something procedural, emergent. These are ideas that I've always loved. I still love the idea of like emergent behaviors and so forth. Doom. And this one I added today is like conveyor belts productivity. I really love Factorio, Satisfactory, and Minecraft, the original thing there. So yeah, very much a joy. And with USPSA, do a 3-gun match, PCC only. Oh yeah, that was a category you could do a 3-gun, but just use only PCC. B classification in division, and the October Classic. So for 2025, what am I doing? 2025. I have some outdoors and family goals, right? So that's top of my outdoor goals. multi-day camping. At the moment, we've been able to do normal camping. Should I try like backcountry camping? No, we're gonna do multi-day first and backcountry later. More national parks. So this summer, hopefully going through Utah, Montana, and Idaho. There's a lot of options through there. So this is mostly through the summer holidays. And for YouTube, gotta do. Let's commit to like one watch video a month. So there's the watch channel. One watch video a month. I'd like to keep it quote unquote interesting. I think what I offer is really an owner's perspective, is really the niche of my channel. I could cover a lot of other things, but I'm probably not going to do them better than any other channel. So I think an owner's perspective is, and there's detail for people who really want to know what it's like to own the watch, wear the watch. I think owner's perspective is the right way to do things. For Aussie Expat 2, I'd love to just share the journey with you guys. Basically, I want to talk about all of the other stuff. Like, yeah, I'll write it down and then have a think and then actually share with you. So this is the kind of thing, like what I'm doing right now. This is the kind of thing I'd love to share. I don't know how much audience there is. There may be some specific videos that I put out here and there. Like certainly the product review stuff does come into play here and there, but I'd love to do that. The one thing I'll probably steer clear from is like outright politics. I feel relatively strongly about politics and I got quote unquote a lot to say, but I'm not sure that anyone cares or anyone would be convinced. I wouldn't have an audience that wants to be convinced of any of this stuff. So for the most part, I think it's going to be about say Bitcoin, financial independence. Independence. Yeah, what am I doing? Independence. Is that dependence? Yeah. Oh God. Financial independence, retire early. And technology. Yeah, I tell you a channel type that has like really blown up in the last few years, and that's been sort of like engineering stunt work. There's the videos where that guy, it was like the stuff made here where he's, $100 if you can miss this basketball hoop and stuff like that. And there's an Australian guy, I made this or something, where he's doing just incredibly dangerous like engineering stuff. And it's all a little bit more accessible than like Colin Firth, who's always been doing this kind of stuff. So his channel's like OG, but not, I don't know, there's something sort of too outlandish and family friendly about his stuff that for some reason just doesn't resonate with people as much. He doesn't show people, he does show the jokes. I'm not exactly sure why Colin Firth just doesn't really hit, but there's definitely a lot more on the technology stuff. And I did do a little bit of technology stunting on my own. So I did develop I had the idea of everyone's sort of fascinated with watches, and perpetual calendars will just continue over time. And the reality is like they won't, like they've got service intervals of like a few years. So while they have the mechanisms to calculate something lasting, for a while, like accounting for leap years and so forth, it doesn't have like literally the mechanics, the durability to last more than a few years. So I was wondering if I could create something that could literally last a millennium. So I had the ultimate complication is like, so telling time, hours, minutes, seconds, and there's date complication tells you date. Perpetual calendar should be able to tell you the year. I wanted something that told you which millennium you were in. So the context was something that would continue to function over the course of thousands of years. And the best that I could hope for that I came up with was a website in JavaScript, client side JavaScript, and it would tell you, it would just have the one number and it would tell you what millennium we're in. So it would load up, it was HTML, and I had that in AWS. I had it in S3 being distributed via CloudFront and HTTP out to web browsers and Route 53 certificates, stuff like that. And basically, because it was so simple, it would run inside of AWS free tier, which meant that overall, like if it could just stay there forever potentially. The only thing that was off was really the domain name. The domain name you do have to keep paying for like $30 a year. I did investigate whether or not it would be possible to like just permanently buy an address of some type. And that, there were potential like crypto options for like presents and stuff like that, and I'm pretty sure all of that's dead. Uh, so I think the best thing that you could do is potentially like the Onion network, but I thought that would introduce like some fragility to the system, and by then I'd already completed using a domain name. So yeah, run in perpetuity. And JavaScript's a good one because honestly, like if you write very simple JavaScript, it should be able to work deep into the future. Although I did see that they just deprecated the date time. They did deprecate the date library, the time library, but deprecation doesn't mean you can't use it. So I suspect that that date library probably will work into perpetuity, but will remain deprecated, in perpetuity. So yeah, I think Jeff Bezos actually had such a project. I think he researched a perpetual, like a clock that would last forever. Let me see if I can last forever. Is that the right term? Clock, long now, monument scale, mechanical clock, is that? Yeah, this one. Share this tab instead. Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah, the clock of the long now. So yeah, designed to last a long time. What is it? For 10,000 years, so a millennia. So this is a mechanical clock designed.
It was getting to be the early 90s.
Long
clock would change how people.
So they found a location.
The clock is a provocation.
Make something gigantic. I think it's a cool idea. A clock that lasts forever. It's a thing that, civilizations from now they'll discover, and I was like, oh, these are some interesting dudes. It's basically what it is. Nothing else will have lasted 10,000 years, but if this clock does, it's like, okay, we've got some interesting people here. Okay, last final words. My God, the markets have been very volatile. Looks like we're in for another swing tomorrow. Like I say, the markets will do what they do, and you know what? Volatility is your friend. Fundamentally, we are still looking at, historically, expected return 10% a year on S&P 500, and these are buying opportunities. I think the really sad fact is like, compared to a lot of people's like real hand wringing and like, oh, it's going down, it's going down. This is like, it's nothing. Like this barely brings us back to the election night in terms of price levels, I think. So this is like honestly a nothing. It does give you a little bit of reprieve from a market that just went straight up. So you can re-enter S&P 500. You can re-enter, Bitcoin. For me, I feel like I don't have enough Bitcoin. It's up to you. Do you feel like you wanted more? You could tolerate the risk. You could tolerate the ups and downs. Not risk. It's not risk. It's volatility. What I thought, though, was interesting is this. Take a look at Berkshire, man. Look at Berkshire year to date. 504. We're talking a total year to date increase of 11% and a year over year increase of 23.5%. This is amazing. And sure enough, I did a lot of investment into Berkshire at the early part of last year and maybe the latter part of the year before that, mostly because I felt like the AI stuff felt a little bit too bubbly, and I was already very invested. Like I had a very big position in Nvidia, and I felt like I just needed to just calm that down just a little bit, just slight calm down, nothing too crazy. And man, Berkshire has been phenomenal in the last, and they've been doing nothing. They've just been selling stock and bundling cash. So this all rides on Warren Buffett, one, A, surviving, and B, eventually finding a good value target. Now, the thing is, this kind of price correction, broad market wise, this is not that interesting to Warren. I mean, Warren was selling stocks at these price levels, so it's just come back to that price level. Not that Warren looks at price that much, but yeah, like 1 year to 1 year, we are basically back to September of last year. This is not that interesting. We first hit that mark in July. This is just not that interesting in terms of prices. Go to 5 years. I mean, arguably, we're sort of approaching maybe a sort of a line. I don't like drawing lines, but if we go below where we are today, that would be pretty significant. But who the hell knows? Who cares? Who bloody cares? Just keep buying. Expected returns hasn't changed. Bitcoin hasn't changed. Ultimately, you'll never worry about whether or not you bought at 50, 20, 100, 200 if Bitcoin is eventually going to 1 million and 10 million. So it'll never make a difference. All right. I think that's all the topics I had today. I certainly appreciate everyone's time. Want to show one last outro here, I think. Let me line up the outro properly. Yeah, let me know what you think. I'm going to leave this one up. There's a lot of things I could be doing for the channel. I know a lot of you have been out here on my channel hoping that I go back to video game content or hoping I go back to guns. It's like, who knows? I still love all those things. It's just whether or not I make a video about it is a real question. So, you let me know what you want to see. I certainly will, try and please my audience, basically. And on Aussie Expat too, I can do a lot more. I don't have to, how do we say? No. I don't have to, what's going on here? Go back. No. There we go. I don't have to please the algorithm. I don't have to please the algorithm. I just want this to be an outlet, and me connecting with anybody out there is all I need out of this. All right. Until next time. See you around.